and welcome. This is our program, Impact 2023, our show where we talk about different topics, where we talk about race, where we talk about religion, where we talk about current events. This is our opportunity to have a conversation and continue a conversation where we're able to talk about all the different things that we feel are important to us, so that we can come to some conclusions, so that we can talk through the issues of the day. And so we ask, since it is a continuing conversation, that you type your questions into the comment section or your comments into the comment section. And as they arise, we will address them. Again, this is a continuing conversation, so your input is valued. And as always, we jump into it because there's many topics that's gone on. So if you don't know, it is January 2023. This is the first week of the year. And so, for those of you who've been with us in the past, thank you for joining us in 2023. This is the time where people make all of their resolutions and all of their new things that they have going on. For those of you who haven't been here before, what's new is kind of the setup. And I'll say, going through 2023 in this program, what we're going to attempt to do is to have more guests live and in person. And so if you've seen us before, what we'll do is we'll have guests and we'll bring them in, oftentimes because they're in different locations throughout the country, not just here where we're at in Richmond, Virginia. But we also, from time to time, want to have people in person and to join us right here. And so as I'm sitting in a chair, we can have persons join us and sitting in chairs right beside us where we can have kind of in-person dialogue. And that won't change the fact that you can still type your questions and your comments into the comment section and that we can still engage in dialogue with us. And so that is the move that we're going to make going forward, is to just try to make sure that we have a variety of people, whether they be remote or in person. And so that's what we're looking to do. All right, as always, we're going to hop right into the topics. But before we go to the topic of the day, we're going to stop on what a current event that just occurred last night. For many people that were watching a football game last night between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. And this particular football game was going on like any other routine football game. But then an injury happened. And injury unlike anything, which many of the people said, unlike anything they had seen before. An injury where a gentleman who was playing football, a collision occurred, and this individual stood up and then immediately collapsed. And what occurred was that his heart stopped. The paramedics came out, or the paramedic officials and all of the different people came out. They immediately attended to the gentleman and got his heart starting again. But currently, he's still in critical condition at a hospital, and this is a day later. This story has been all over the news, national news. It's been a big story. A lot of sports stars have commented on it. A lot of just famous people have commented on it. But it's shocked the world in the sense of those type of things usually don't happen on the field in that type of way. They talk about injuries, some catastrophic injuries, knees and elbows and concussions and things like that, and even issues of back problems or back collisions where people have actually been paralyzed. But what they haven't seen is that someone has come so close to dying. And technically, this gentleman died on the football field when his heart stopped, and they had to resuscitate him and get it going. They immediately went into CPR. And so that's a new area, an unfounded area. And what ended up happening is that the game got canceled. First delayed, postponed, and then I guess canceled. And it may get redone. The reason I bring this up is because of the phenomenon that occurred last night and into this morning, where people were complaining about everything. They were complaining because the NFL didn't immediately cancel the game. They deliberated. They thought about it. They went back and forth. And I think it was about different reports to say it was about a 20-minute period maybe 30-minute period before they finally decided that they weren't going to play anymore. And they said that the players really and the coaches were really like, look, we're not going to play. And so people complained. They said that the league should have canceled it immediately. And then they were complaining more with some more vitriol, like, I can't believe these heartless people didn't cancel it immediately. And then there were some people who made comments on Twitter or Facebook or wherever they made their comments. One person, famous person named Skip Bayless, who said that first you praying for the family and everything like that, and then came back and said, well, they're talking about canceling the game. I don't know how they're going to do that with all of the playoff implications and other things such as that. He's like, even though that stuff is really irrelevant. That was his comment. And then people came and bashed him. How dare you talk about the game when the only thing that's important is the gentleman who was injured. Another person, similar situation. And just a lot of situations where people were attacking folk, were making comments. And what I found interesting is that, you know, we already know that we're in this climate of cancel culture. We already know we're in this climate of people attacking folk who don't say the right thing or the perfect thing, or who've done things bad in the past. But what we've now gotten into is a continuing of criticism, harsh criticism of people, even when they're thinking. But what was interesting last night, and that I saw, and that I'm starting to realize, and I don't know if other people are realizing this too, it's that when we don't know how to process our emotions. If we're angry, if we're confused, if we're hurt, our immediate reaction is to hurt others or to blame others. It's a very childish reaction. My son does it. If he gets in trouble, he immediately wants to blame others or move it on to others. But what you saw last night is people were confused. They were hurt. They were scared about what was happening to the young gentleman that he was injured, and they didn't know how to feel. And so their first reaction is, well, let me, criticize the NFL because I feel bad. Let me try to blame someone else for my emotions or my feelings. Or I feel bad, so let me blame the commentator for not making the perfect tweet or the perfect comment or the perfect Facebook post. And let me say that all these people are bad and all these people need to be, they need to be fired, they need to be canceled, they need to be done this, they need to be done that. And so what it shows, or what it showed me, is that one of the things that we're doing is that we're not able to process our thoughts. We're not able to process our emotions. We're not able to process our feelings. And what we've continued to do, or what we've learned to do as a culture, is now to just blame others, to lash out at others anytime we feel a different way. Anytime we feel unsure, anytime our emotions are not on the typical path that they're on. It's anytime we get any kind of disruption in our feelings. And that's what I continuously see happen. I'm as I thought about it, as I thought back, and I thought to some other comments that were made about why people are lashing out at other groups, why one racial group is lashing out at another racial group, or why U.S. citizens are lashing out at people who are immigrating here. It's people hurting people, or it's people who have emotions or don't feel good about whatever, and they just decide to blame someone else and hurt someone else. And it's disappointing to me, just because of the fact that it's not kids who are doing this. It'd be one thing if we were talking about 15-year-old kids and 16-year-old kids going out here making inappropriate comments and getting mad at other people and not being able to process their emotions and their feelings. But we're talking about 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and so on, who can't process their emotions. You've been in the world this long and don't understand the difference between I feel bad about what's going on versus I feel bad, so I need to hurt somebody else, or I need to blame somebody else, or it has to be somebody else's fault, or I need to make somebody else feel pain to make myself feel better. That misery loves company type situation. And so we're kind of stuck in this area of adults acting like that. And I don't know if these adults know that they're acting like that. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But I do know that um, we don't need to support that. And so for all the people who want to criticize, the NFL for being slow or not doing everything perfectly, for all the people who want to criticize people who made remarks that aren't perfect remarks, not mean or mean remarks or crazy remarks or anything like that, but criticizing for not being perfect or um, think about whether or not you're doing the right thing and think about whether or not you're just trying to hurt someone else's feelings because you're hurt or you're trying to hurt somebody else's feelings because that makes you feel better about the situation. Um, and so that's that. I know that was kind of an offbeat tangent there, but it just happened, and that's more of something that I think that we need to kind of address as adults. Um, you know, I'm not big on to what do you do for the new year, but if there's one thing that I would say, or on a new year type of thing, grown up, stop acting like kids, man. Like canceling stuff and all that. Just let's stop acting like kids, and um, you know, we need more adults. All right, now to move on to the topic at hand. And the topic at hand, basically, since it is the beginning of the year, is one of the things of what should be the focus of organizations, of churches, um, going into this new period of higher costs, higher inflation. And so, what one of the things that has been going on over in California, and it's been an issue across the nation, but specifically in California and San Francisco, there have been numerous reports and numerous issues when it comes to homelessness and the homelessness factor, and it's getting worse. One of the reasons, as you should already know, uh, when it comes to California, is that the homelessness is so high is because of the weather. The weather is great, so people come, they're homeless. They can live in a tent because it's warm, doesn't get too cold. You don't have to worry about freezing to death. Um, you really have access to being able to be out in an area that doesn't have a lot of bugs or anything like that. And so California kind of is ideal for somebody who's going to have to live outside for a long period of time. Other states actually bus people into California, homeless people or homeless populations into California, especially when they don't have the ability to tend to them. And so San Francisco is one of the cities that has a significantly large homeless population. And there's an issue there. Businesses and individuals are complaining about the fact that there are homeless people everywhere. People don't feel safe. Um, the tents and homeless are all over the walkways and inways where people are trying to move throughout their day. On the other side, you have homeless people who can't afford to live anywhere. If you know anything about California, or as we all know about California, the prices are outrageous there. The price to live is outrageous. But this is not a California issue in the sense of that's how it's getting everywhere, where the cost of living, the cost to be able to live. Um, they just talked about there's a new Gen Z politician in the House, and he even talked about the fact that he couldn't. He just got elected to Congress, got elected to the House and Congress, and he's having trouble finding residents in the Washington D.C. area because he's Gen Z, he's young 20s, and he doesn't have the credit history to be able to get a place or the income history to be able to get a place. And so you got somebody who's elected to Congress who has a guaranteed paycheck coming from the government, and they can't get qualified to get an apartment. And so, what should be the focus here of organizations, of churches, of just groups? What should be our focus when it comes to what's going on in this new time where according to economists, we're looking in going into a recession. We have inflation that's running rampant. We all know that how the prices of houses has gone up, the prices of cars have gone up, prices of of grocery store goods have gone up. Um, what should be the focus? How do we affect people's lives? Because as it is looking, um, people's lives may get very, very difficult, financially difficult, housing, getting difficult in finding housing and keeping housing, being difficult in raising families, being difficult in being able to afford transportation to get from here to there. Now, on the flip side, jobs are plentiful. There's jobs everywhere. But this is less of an economic conversation and more of a conversation about, as organizations and as churches, where should our focus be? Should our focus be on trying to help people to get economically empowered? Should our focus be on trying to make sure that people understand that you can make do with what you have? Or should our focus be something else? And one of those focuses is just to ignore really much the economic situations and stick to whatever our core values are. If you're an organization, stick to whatever your core values are. And if it's the church, stick to our core values of getting people to understand the love of Christ and how to be Christians. Is it in this economic times? Is that something that we need to focus on? Is that an issue that we need to look to affect change on? Or is it something that is just a part of the economics, a part of the society, and that's something that we stay away from? It's hard to sit back and talk to somebody about what's the right thing to be doing in their lives when they're sitting back and they're hungry, or they're sitting back and they are stressed out because they don't have a place to live. It's difficult to try to affect change in people's lives when people can't focus in on what you're saying because they're dealing with so many other situations. So for me, I tend to lean towards I can't really concentrate as much on just your soul if your body is distracted. And so I need to be able to look at both. And so if you're physically hungry, if you're physically tired and weary because you don't have your needs met, it's going to be difficult for me to talk to you about being your moral responsibility. It's going to be difficult for me to talk about, being a Christian, being a person of God. It's going to be difficult to kind of deal with those issues if you have other things that are distracting you and keeping you away. And then on the flip side, we have people who look at organizations and look at churches and say, well, you got a lack of power and influence and effect on the world. So then why should I pay attention to what you're talking about anyway? One of the comments is people today, instead of dealing with issues, seek to assign blame. What this does is allow people to let themselves off the hook from helping, from taking responsibility for the welfare of others. It's a great one because it actually combines both things that what was talked about. Talked about earlier, people just wanting to blame folk when they feel a certain way, or when their emotions get out of whack. That works into there too. Blaming is the number one thing that defense mechanism that people have nowadays is let's just blame everyone else, or let's criticize everyone else. Let's criticize, blame, deflect. Let's do all of those things. And it does. What it does is it allows you to focus in on blaming and not on action, not on helping, not on what responsibility that you may have or others may have. In the California situation where you have the homeless people there, it's a weird situation. I acknowledge it for both. I'm not one of those who sit back and say, well, we got homeless people and they should just be able to do what they want to do. Let them be, we need to focus in on the homeless. Because there is a significant responsibility to people who aren't homeless or who may not feel comfortable. I can't walk downtown. I don't know who these people are. They're living in tents. Some of them, look a certain way. It makes me scared. I can't take my kids out to this place, or I want to just go out to eat and I have to cross up businesses. I've worked so hard to try to get a business together and I can't function or operate because I got people sleeping in front of my place. I understand some of those complaints. And going back to the comment that was made, there's a responsibility there. One of the comments that a homeless person made, researching this issue, one of the comments that the homeless person made was that they said, "Am I not a part of this community as well? Am I not a citizen as well? Just because I don't have a home, does that make me any less of a citizen, any less of a person in this community?" And I think that's the issue that we have to deal with and wrestle with, is that we have a responsibility to others for their welfare, and a responsibility to yourself, and a responsibility to all folk in the situation. And so we shouldn't look at one side or the other blindly and not, take account for anyone else. And so, yes, the same way you want to look and take account for businesses and be responsible for that, you also need to be responsible for the people who are homeless or the people who are struggling. Same way you need to be responsible for the people who feel uncomfortable. We're responsible for all and all of ourselves and our welfare. And so we have to work together. There's no solution when you're only thinking about one group or one side. And so you can't run a blame game. You can't blame the homeless people for being homeless. Well, you didn't get your money right, or you got drug issues, or whatever you want to say. You can't blame the businesses like, okay, clean up the homeless people yourself, or you shouldn't feel uncomfortable. You shouldn't feel unsafe. Like that's blaming somebody on the back end. Like, you feel how you want to feel. You don't know people's experiences. But what we do all have is a responsibility. And I think that's the problem, is that we don't work fully in tandem with one another to attack some of these issues. As the church, as Christians, as organizations out here that may be doing similar work or Christian work. This is a tough issue. These are always going to be tough issues. And they're tough issues because it's, what do we have to do to be able to affect change and to be able to help others and to be able to help those. We always got to look back at the Bible and remember that, Jesus fed the 5,000. Jesus and the disciples fed the 5,000. And, why was that needed to do? You had all these people who are listening to the word of God. They're good. You listen to the word of God, send them on their way. And that's kind of what the disciples said. But there was a need to, I just fed the soul, also feed the body. Let's take care of these people. It depends on how you really look at it. And so going forward into these economic times, I think organizations got to pick their priorities, what their priorities are going to be and where we're going to be. Are we going to pay attention to the economic situations? Are we going to pay attention to the different situations that people individually have, or the impact of what's going on in the world with the economy and everything like that, and the cost of goods and the cost of living? Are we going to pay attention to that? Are we going to put that as a part of the things that we're going to address and what we're going to do? Or are we not? What's the answer there? Are we going to try to affect change in our communities and be a part of the community? Or are we going to kind of be a set aside where, we're here and we're going to offer up what we're going to offer up, our moral stance and our religious stances, but we're not going to get involved into the economics of everything. I think it's a difficult one. From our standpoint here, we've decided to get into the weeds when it comes to the economics, where we try to help those who are homeless, where we try to help those who don't have food to eat, where we go out, we use our resources, whether it be our time or our money, our energy, everything to help assist those, whether they are coming to our ministry or not, whether they're coming to the church or not. whether they believe or not. Um, Taking up the mantra of loving thy neighbor, taking care of thy neighbor. Um, you know, uh, it, moving in that sort of way. Another comment: people feel that life is about them. What makes me comfortable, what makes me happy, and what helps me succeed. The church should point us to our responsibilities and duties as children of God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. People are. We've accepted selfishness as or self-centeredness as the norm, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. And so we should be pursuing what makes us happy. We should be pursuing what helps our families. We should be pursuing what is best for us. And that's the norm that's kind of being put out there. You hear that all across um, different areas, whether it be, in social arenas, whether it be in the media, whether it be in different cultural groups. You look at hip hop. That's my more generation. You look at hip hop songs where it's all me, me, me. Take care of mine. You listen to peers where they're talking about, yeah, we got to get you know our wealth together, our generational wealth. I got to make sure I get my family and all that straight. It's a very narcissistic way of thinking, and you know that's that's what we hear. We rarely hear about our responsibilities to others, and I guess that's the only place you're really getting that nowadays is the church. I mean, you may get that from a couple of organizations, charitable organizations, but for the most part, you're not really getting that. You're getting, well, you can give a little bit of your excess out here to some charitable organizations, or maybe get you a little tax write off. But we really don't have a true responsibility and a duty to other people, and we don't encourage that anymore as a society. So where do you get that encouragement from? And I think with the comment, I think that was good. Is that it's the church's responsibility to remind people that that's what you're supposed to do. And it's the church's responsibility to remind people that that's what Christians are supposed to do. And we don't do that as much. Our responsibilities to others, our duty to others, our duty to those who we know and don't know, our duty to those who we agree with and don't agree with, our duties to people who have lifestyles that are same as us and opposite from us or dissimilar from us. We got to take care of everyone, and I think that's our responsibility. And so going forward, because our time, we're at our time, is that I know us here at Amani, we decided to get involved, and that long time ago. I guess from the jump, decided to get involved in more than just typical church duties, but getting into the economics of things, getting into people's lives. And so, yeah, as the economy goes, whichever way it's going to go, wherever there's need, we're kind of jumping into housing, food, clothing, whatever. And the question is, are other churches, are other organizations going to do similar things, and should they? I think they should, and I encourage everyone to make sure that you consider, as the comments said, your responsibilities to others. All right. Well, we are at our time. Hopefully you will join us throughout the year, as again, we're going to try to bring some people here live and in person, face to face. And we encourage all of the comments. Thank you for all the comments that come in. We encourage all the comments to continue to come on and go and to put out your opinions and your thoughts. On Thursdays, same place, different time, 7. Talk about the Bible study, Thursday Thirst, and on Sundays at 10, same place, Facebook and YouTube worship service. One more comment before we get out of here, and that will be, one of the principles of Kwanzaa is cooperative economics. This means that as I do better, I need to do better. I need you to do better so that we can do better. Yes. Yeah. Um, that's a lot of people don't understand that. It's one of the easiest concepts that's taught, that can be taught, is that it's so basic. If you do better and I do better, then we all do better. If I have a store and you're doing better and you're making more money, you can buy more products from the store. The whole community does better because then we give back to the community. It's a cooperative economics where we all should want to help one another and rely on one another. One of the more disturbing things that I see is that people are getting so wealthy, and we're okay with that in the sense of, yeah, I love to see billionaires and millionaires. I love to see more people all doing well, and so I'm one of those who don't really get all hype and celebrate the successes, the excesses of certain individuals. Like, oh, this is the richest person, blah 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 blah. This person, I get less excited about that and more excited about seeing groups of people who are able to do well. And then this culture where we worship celebrities and we worship big checks and big money opportunities. I think it's better that we be in this cooperative economics. I agree with the quantitative principle where we all do better, versus just celebrating that one person is doing so great and everybody else can struggle. All right. And that, thank you for that comment. Again, this is Impact 2023. Thank you and have a good one.